and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you my Champions Day preview for Ascot, which takes place tomorrow afternoon. We've got 6 quality races, plenty of good horses on show, and I'll be giving you a selection in every single race. Now, before we get into those races, I quickly just want to recap on how our selections have performed today. At the current time of recording, I'm making this video at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we still have one selection to go, which is the nap in the 7.15 at Dundalk. That's Brunel, so fingers crossed we can get a winner there. Has been well supported. 13-2 we advertised her last night, and she's been backed into 3-1, so fingers crossed we can get a deserved winner there. But it's been a really frustrating day today, and obviously the talking point from our selections will be Fixed Rate, who unfortunately passed away, and we did advertise him at 33-1 each way as my long shot last night, and he had the race at his mercy, really. He was around about 6-7 lengths clear coming to the last fence, and unfortunately he fell and sadly passed away. And the fact that we were also on him as well at 33-1 each way was so sickening, because if he'd won, our fortunes really would have turned for this month. We could have done with him winning, but it's really sad to see him pass away, and it's never nice, especially as well when you've got a bet on a horse when it makes a fatal mistake, and it's just so horrible. And my heart does go out to Charlie Man and the connections of that horse. It's just never nice at all to see horses pass away, especially as well in the position he was in when he was looking like a comfortable winner. I think he even traded 1.01 in Betfair. So yeah, really sad to hear about the passing of Fixed Rate there. But yeah, just our luck, isn't it, in October? We've not had the best of months, but if he'd won today, our fortunes really would have turned. But I would probably say that this week our selections have been running better. We've had a few winners. We nearly had a nice winner earlier as well with Mount Windsor. We advertised him as my extra tip at 10-1 each way, finished in second place. And if he jumped a little bit more fluently, I think he would have won the race. He made 1 or 2 mistakes at a couple of the final hurdles, and if he'd had jumped them better, I seriously think he would have won the race. And if he, like I say, slickens up his jumping, I think he's a well-handicapped horse. So Mount Windsor, I think it was a promising run on his seasonal reappearance, and he's definitely one to keep on side later down the line this season. And then our next best, What's the Wi-Fi Code? Actually had a little bit of a drift just before the off. Was well supported though for the majority of the day, but in the last 10 minutes before the race did drift out to around about 7-1, and in the end finished in 3rd place. But annoyingly we backed it as a win only bet, so if you did take the each way you would have been quids up there. But yeah, unfortunately I recommended it as a win only bet, and it goes down as a loss on the profit and loss record sheet. So yeah, it has been a really frustrating day, and obviously really sickening as well with Fixed Rate, because he would have been my biggest price winner since Joe Farrell in the Scottish National a couple of years ago. And it's not every day as well that I put up a 33-1 shot. But yeah, it's just sad news all around, really, especially as well the fact that he lost his life. But yeah, enough of reflecting on how our selections performed today. Let's get into the tips for tomorrow, what you all want to know about. Well, we're previewing Champions Day at Ascot with 6 tips in every race, and there's going to be a lot of big price selections tomorrow. My main advice would be take on some of these favourites, because I think some of them are vulnerable, and I'll be explaining my cases why. And also as well, if you're backing singly, shop around for them as many extra places as you can, because I think there's some good value to be had out there. And all these tips that I'm going to be selecting, I'm recommending each way, and I'll be recommending the best value with the most places. There will be a few bookmakers that are maybe offering a couple of points bigger, but they're not paying out as many places. So if you want to take less places for a bigger SP, fair play to you. But I'm going to be recommending the most places on offer with the best price that you can get. So let's get into the Champions Day card, and it starts tomorrow with the 120, the long distance cup. Now Stradivarius here is obviously the deserving favourite, one of the best stares we've seen in this millennium, in fact, and deserves to be, like I said, at the top of the market. But for me, he's just a little bit too short. I think you can back him at 6-5 last time I saw the betted markets, but I think he's vulnerable tomorrow. I just think he's had a little bit of a hard campaign, especially in his last couple of races, and the quick turnaround from the Arc to this race would be negative in my opinion. I just think it is a bit of an afterthought to come here. Obviously, he's definitely the best stayer around over the 2 miles, but he has been beaten in this race on 2 occasions. He's only won it from one of his 3 starts in the race, so you would probably want to take him on. And the trouble is trying to narrow it down to what to take him on with, and I think you should be having an each way bet here, because I think there's plenty of horses that could step up and definitely pose a serious threat to him if he isn't on song. And the one that I've decided to settle down on is Dawn Patrol for Pierre-Charles Bourdeaux, who's a really interesting jockey booking, riding for Ballydoyle, riding for Aidan O'Brien. And Dawn Patrol, I think he's got a lot more to come over stamina-based trips. It was the first time last time he ever cracked 2 miles when he won the Group 3 Low Brown Stakes at the Curragh, and he actually did the job quite nicely that day. I'd recommend anyone to go and watch the race replay. He travelled on the bridle really nicely and came with a really big move to win his race, and he wasn't stopping at the end. You know, he found for under pressure. And there's going to be a little bit of pace on, I think, tomorrow. I think Sovereign will go towards the front. I think they'll probably try and ride him handy. And I think they'll try and get Stradivarius beat. And it's interesting that they've booked Pierre-Charles Bourdeaux. Now, I was thinking that probably Ryan Moore would have got aboard Dawn Patrol, but he's decided to go on Sovereign. And Bourdeaux is definitely a massive positive jockey booking for me. If you're not familiar with him, he's the jockey leading the way in the French Jockeys Championship. He's ridden plenty of winners out there this season, and he's one of the best jockeys in Europe. And you might remember he actually got Mogul to win a race in the reorganised Grand Prix de Paris. So Dawn Patrol, I think he's got an interesting ride there tomorrow. And like I said, I think he's got a lot more to come over stamina-based trips. Aidan O'Brien won this race last year, you might remember, with Kew Gardens, and this horse, he's going to be getting the 3-year-old allowances. And like I said, I think he's got untapped potential over staying trips. He's a full brother to a 2-mile winner, so yeah, I think there's a lot more to come from him, and I expect probably a patient ride. And I think if he comes there still travelling on the bridle into the home turn, I think he could pose a serious threat if Stradivarius isn't himself not travelling comfortably, if he's out of his comfort zone. But Stradivarius, obviously, the one to beat. He's staying in training next season, and I can see if you want to go and back him. But for me, if I had to give a tip and give a value selection, Dawn Patrol would be it. And I would be disappointed, actually, if he doesn't run a good race. I think, like I said, he's got a bit more to come over staying trips. And for me, you can currently get him 11-1 with William Hill, who offer him 4 places. I think that can be a good start for us on the Champions Day card. So that's going to be the tip in the 120, the Long Distance Cup, and that's going to go down as an extra tip for the profit and loss sheet. We then go to the Champion Sprint Stakes, the 155, and I know a lot of people would like to be on Dream of Dreams here. Obviously has standout claims and really looks like he's turned a corner now. However, again, for me, he is a little bit short, and this race has thrown up a few big price winners over the years. You might remember Don Juan Triumphant went in at a big price last year. I think he was around about a 33-1 chance. You've had Sands of Marley in the past, so it's not always the best horse in the race that wins, if that kind of makes sense. And the one I've sided here is Glen Shiel for Holly Doyle and Archie Watson. Now, this season, he's really been campaigned over sprint trips and has really improved during his early part of career when he was in France, and even last season when he came to Archie Watson's, he was being tried over a mile, 7 furlongs, but going over 6 furlongs has really seen him to good effect. He's finished in the first 2 in quite a lot of his recent starts, and his best piece of form was his most recent effort when he was, to be fair, beaten by Dream of Dreams and the Haydock Sprint Cup, but nonetheless he still ran a really good race. And we know as well, another important thing tomorrow is going to be the ground. It's going to be at least on the soft side. I don't think it quite gets good soft. It hasn't been drying out as much as I thought it might do a couple of days ago, but it has been drying out. It has slightly, but not enough to make it probably good soft. So it is going to be on the soft side. So you want horses that be able to handle the conditions. And Glen Shiel, we know he can go well on soft conditions. It was soft ground at Haydock when he finished second in the Haydock Sprint Cup. And if you actually go back through some of his form, he actually finished 4th in the Balmoral Handicap at this meeting last year on heavy ground. So the ground shouldn't be a problem. We know he should be handy. And if it turns into a stamina test over the trip, you know, I think Glen Shiel, he'll be there finding. We know what we're going to get. He's 14-1 currently with Skybet, who are offering 5 places on the race. I think that's a big price there. And for me, he is going to be another one of my extra tips of the day. I quite fancy his chances tomorrow to run a really big race in the Champion Sprint Stakes. We then go to the 2:30, the Fillies and Mares race over a mile and a half. And this is where my nap's going to come in play tomorrow. And that's Dame Malliot at 9-2. I'm going to recommend the Dirty each way. You can get quite a few firms that are paying out 4 places on this race. Now, Dame Malliot, I think, brings in some of the best form, especially with that 3rd place effort in the Vermeil at Longshot on Arc Trials Day. Now, that form has worked out quite well with Tanawa going on to win. Again, she won on Arc Day, and the 2nd place horse was Rabiha, who ran a fair race to finish in 5th place in the Arc. So the form of that race doesn't look too bad in the context of this contest. Now, this isn't the strongest Group 1, I think, tomorrow. I think it's quite wide open outside of the top 2. I think it is between Wonderful Tonight and Dame Malliot, but I just think Dame Malliot has a little bit of unfinished business in Group 1s, and she is due one. She finished 3rd in a Group 1 in Germany when she probably could have won that day. However, I just think the ground's come right for her. I think this is the right kind of trip for her. You go back through her form as well. Earlier in the season, she beat the boys in a fair Group 2 at Newmarket, where the form of that race has actually worked out not too badly. So I think Dame Malliot's got a good chance tomorrow. Holly Doyle's booked riding for Ed Vaughan in the colours of the Oppenheimer family. Ed Vaughan revealed earlier this season that this is going to be his last season as a trainer in the UK. He did say he might go elsewhere due to all the prize money and the current situation with COVID. But Dame Malliot has been a good servant to him over the last couple of years. She's threatened to win a big prize, and I think she can tomorrow. She's got not a bad draw in stall 4 as well, and she'll probably be quite handy. I would like her to maybe get a lead from Suffin, but just be tracking the pace. You don't want to be tracking the pace, or you don't want to be making the pace, I should say, at Ascot. It can be a long way home. And I think if Holly Doyle can just sit maybe on the shoulders, maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th place, that kind of position, I think that will be tailor-made for Dame Malliot. And then in the straight, I think she'll be able to use her stamina for good effect. Obviously, Wonderful Tonight is the improving filly from Devon, Nazeef's yard, and does get the 3-year-old allowance. But for me, I just think some of those races that she's been winning in France, even though she did win, I think it was the Group 1 last time in France. I can't remember the name of the race now, the name escapes me. But even though she did win that race, I just think that the form of those races aren't necessarily as strong to what Dame Malliot has been running in, and I just really like that form in the Vermeil. So yeah, for me, 9-2 tomorrow. I think this is a good one here. And if there has to be a horse up there in the betting that's short enough for me, this is the one I would want to be getting stuck into, because like I said, I don't think it's a particularly strong renewal of this race. I think the fillies over in a mile and a half are lacking depth, and for me, Dame Malliot just ticks all the boxes, and I like her chances. We then go to the 305 in the QE2 stakes. Now, a lot of people are probably not going to be even having a bet in this race, but obviously it's my job as a pundit and a tipster to try and take on the favourite, and I do think Palace Pier is the one that obviously they've all got to beat, and I do think he is the most likeliest winner. However, for me, he is a little bit too short, and he's had a little bit of, even though this has been a plan, he has had a little bit of a gap in between his win in France when he won the Prix de Moulin, I think it was. I probably got the wrong name of the race there, but when he won his Group 1 in France at Deauville, he has had a little bit of time in between those races, and even though the form has been boosted somewhat of an extent by Alpine Star, I still just think he's a little bit vulnerable possibly at the prices, and you would want to be taking him on. And one that I think you would want to be taking him on with, and you should be backing for the win. The markets for the without Palace Pier and the place betting are really not that good, actually. There's not much value out there, so I think you might as well just back this horse for the win bet, or for at least each way bet anyway, because you're going to make more money, I think, if this horse places. And also as well, if there was an upset and it did win, you'd be kicking yourself if you only took a place option. So this is the horse I'm going to go for in the QE2, and that's Nazeef for John Gosden and Jim Crowley in the colours of Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum. Now Nazeef, a lot of people might be going, Chris, what are you doing tipping Nazeef for? But look at her record over a mile. Honestly, go and look at it. She's actually won 5 of her career starts over the mile from 5 career attempts. So she's got 100% win record over the mile. When she stepped up in trip to 10 furlongs, that's where we've seen her come unstuck. But over a mile, she's got really solid form. She's won a couple of Group 1s. She won, the Falmouth Stakes earlier in the season at Newmarket, beating Billiston Brook. She won the Sun Chariot Stakes on her last start in testing ground, so that's going to be a positive for her as well. And also as well, she won over the course and distance earlier in the year at Royal Ascot when she won the Duke of Cambridge Stakes. So a lot of positives about her tomorrow. She's currently 12-1 with a few bookmakers. I saw there was a bit of 12-1 out there with Bet365. So if you can get the 4 places at that price, I think that's a huge price, and she can be, especially in behind Palace Pier, if he did win, the one that's probably given him the most hardest time. I know lots of people might like the Revenant, who's obviously been targeted at this race and finished second in it behind King of Change last year. But looking elsewhere, I just think Nazeef still has a little bit more to offer. And like I said, over the trip, she's got a 100% record, and she's very dangerous, and don't discredit her. So for me, Nazeef, she's going to be an extra tip tomorrow, but I'm really keen on her chances. We then go to my long shot. This could be a joint long shot, but I'm going to call him my long shot of the day because you can get bigger with a few firms, and that's Japan in the 340, the Champion Stakes. Yeah, I'm tipping Japan. Now, I haven't really been a massive fan of this horse all season. I haven't really got stuck into him at all, which I know quite a lot of people have. You can currently back him at 14-1, which I think is actually quite a big price in the context of this race with the 4 places. Now, he has had a bit of a frustrating season. He's from a family that obviously need the run. He's a full brother to Mogul, which we've seen it takes him a few runs to really get into shape, but he has had excuses this season. You can forgive him the run at Royal Ascot. His best performance this year was undoubtedly when he finished 3rd in the Eclipse Stakes behind Gaeth and Enable. That's a good level of form. And then in the King George, it was found that he had really bad feet, he had sore feet, and that's the reason why he was below his best. And you can totally put a line through that run, and you can also as well put a line through the run in the Irish Champion Stakes, when obviously he was well beaten by Magical. However, that was his first run for quite a while after his step back. And if you listen to the comments, especially around the time of after the race, they were actually quite pleased with that performance. I know they were in the Ballydoyle team. They were actually quite pleased with the run, and they thought that it would put him spot on, ideally for the Arc. But obviously, because he hasn't run in the Arc, he's going to come here kind of a little bit fresher, and I think he'll be spot on for a big race in the autumn, and this is going to be the race for him. Now, I do think, like I said, it takes him a little bit of time to build up, and I'm expecting a better performance tomorrow, and it's now or never, obviously, with him tomorrow. If he performs well, he could obviously continue into next season, but I think if he does flop, he will be retired. But he's just such a big price for me to let go, and he can beat Magical on some of his best form. He did beat Magical in the Arc last year, where probably it isn't ideally Magical's best trip, and it was a real slog. But Japan on testing ground actually does have quite a good record. Like I said, he finished 4th in the Arc behind Woolgeist and Enable and Sotsas, which is actually a really good level of form. And also as well, if you go back through his juvenile days, I believe he was a heavy ground winner. So a lot of his best form has come with a little bit of ease in the ground. And it's interesting that they've put Colin Keane tomorrow, who comes over here for a good book of rides. And Colin Keane's been seen to really good effect, especially in the Coolmore colours over in Ireland in the last week or so, as he's trying to get that Irish Jockeys Championship. And I just think, like I said, if you look at the race as a whole, Magical, I think she's the one you have to beat, but you can give many others chances. But I was looking for a little bit of value out there, and I could see Japan being the subject of a bit of money tomorrow. Obviously, we all know why, because we know that he is held in such high regard by Aidan O'Brien, and a lot of people probably listening to me now have stopped and watched something else or closed down the apps on their phone. But I just think Japan, I just got a feeling he is going to pop up in a race of this nature, and we know he can go a little bit further. And I think he'll be doing all his best work late on. And with Colin Keane aboard, I just think sometimes when a different jockey, especially one from outside the Ballydoyle, gets on some of these horses, they can just get a little bit more out of them. We obviously saw that with Bordeaux winning with Mogul, and I just feel like the same kind of thing could happen here. So yeah, I'm a bit mad, but I'm going to be tipping Japan in the QE2 Champion Stakes, and on his best form, on his best day, he can beat Magical. Mishrif, respect the chances, but I'm concerned that we haven't seen him for a little while, and I'm not quite sure if Ascot is his track. Adayeb would be the one that I would say, if you wanted to have a bet in the race and you didn't want to back Japan, back Adayeb. I think he's got solid credentials, you know. Obviously, he will have to reverse that form with Magical, but he likes soft ground. He's got an excellent course record, and he's probably the one that ticks the most boxes. But for me, Japan at the prices, I just have to have a small bet on him, and he's going to be my long shot of the day tomorrow. So fingers crossed Japan can finally show everyone what he's made of, and finally get the Group 1 win this season, which we know on his day he is more than capable of. So that's going to be the tip in the QE2, in the Champion Stakes, sorry. We then end the day in the 4:15, the Balmoral Handicap, and there's a horse in here that I've tipped the last couple of times, and I tipped him last time, but unfortunately he didn't run. But I think he's a horse that has been seriously aimed at this race, and that is Orbaan for Daniel Tudhope and David O'Meara. This is going to be my next best of the day tomorrow. You can currently back this horse at 14 to 1 each way with Skybet, who are offering 6 places. Now this horse, Orbaan, like I said, I think he's been targeted for this race because he's trained by David O'Meara, who does well with his French recruits. And this horse actually started off in France, and we've seen him do it over the years with the likes of Lord Glitters, good horse from France, come over here and run well. Arecibo, you know, he does well with his French ventures. But yeah, going back to this horse, like I said, I think this has been the plan because David O'Meara has won this race in 2 of the last 3 renewals with Lord Glitters. He had Escobar last year, win it for him. So I think it's a race he likes to target. And this horse ran a really eye-catching race last time behind Tempest at Ascot, when finishing in 4th. Jamie Spencer was aboard that day, out the back, just kind of I wouldn't say it was a non-trier, but it was just keep a ticking over race where just give the horse a nice prep for a big target, for a big handicap. And I just think that this was the day that they did have in mind. He won for me earlier, this horse, at York. I actually backed him when he was around about 28 to 1 shot that day. I just had a small stakes fun bet on him at York because he was just a horse at the time that I knew would go on the ground, and I thought he would improve for his first run of the season. And York can be a bit of a funny track, but the way he won that day was really impressive, and he did have to give away lumps of weight. And the handicap hasn't ever really moved him since that mark. He's been placing in quite a lot of these handicaps, making the frame, finishing 3rd, 4th, and like I said, he finished 4th behind Tempest last time, but it just smacked of a run. Go back and watch it if you can on the race replay on attheraces.com or on the At The Races app. If you see the race replay, you can just see that Jamie Spencer didn't really give him a hard time that day, and he ran on really strongly, and there should be a strong pace in here, and I think that would definitely suit him. He's got a not bad draw and still 20. He's on probably the right part of the track. You kind of, I always think anyway, want to be towards the stand side if you can. I don't know why. I think it's just the way the ground drains sometimes at Ascot, but he's in the right place. And I just think with a trainer that likes to do well in this race, and what I think has been the plan for quite some time, I just think Orbaan is a really good each way bet here in this race at 14 to 1 each way, with the 6 places on offer, and I'll be disappointed if he couldn't make the first 6. So I'll quickly just run through the selections. In the 120 long distance cup, we go with Dawn Patrol 12 to 1, 11 to 1 each way, sorry, 4 places. with William Hill. In the 155, the Champion Sprint Stakes, we go Glen at 14 to 1 each way. Skybet 5 places. In the 230 Fillies Mile, Dame Malliot 9 to 2 each way, 4 places. There's multiple 4 places at 9 to 2, so you should be able to find that. In the 305, the QEII Stakes, we go Nazeef each way at 12 to 1. That's with Bet365, 4 places. The 340 Champion Stakes, I'm going with Japan, 14 to 1, 4 places each way. And then the last tip of the day is in the Balmoral Handicap, the 415 Orbaan, and we go with that horse there at 14 to 1 each way with the 6 places and Skybet. So they're the tips for Champions Day. If you're enjoying the videos, please remember to give us a thumbs up. Also as well, if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel here at Lucky Loaders 15. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do, where my handle is at Lucky Loader 15. And if you want to find out a little bit more about myself, check out my website, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So please gamble responsibly. Hopefully we can have some winners on Champions Day tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.